Workplace safety discussions often treat workers as a monolithic group, but age creates significant physiological differences in how overtime and shift work affect people. Let's examine how workers over 50 face different risks and considerations than their younger colleagues. The physiological changes with age are well documented. Sleep architecture changes. Older workers get less deep sleep and wake more frequently, meaning the same hours in bed produce less restorative sleep than for younger workers. This makes shift work and overtime particularly difficult. Recovery time increases. A young worker might bounce back from a long shift after one night's sleep. An older worker might need several days to fully recover. Tissue healing slows, meaning repetitive strain injuries are more likely and take longer to heal. But there's a flip side. Older workers often have better judgment from experience. They've seen accidents happen. They know where the hazards are. They're less likely to take unnecessary risks. This experiential knowledge can partially compensate for physical changes. When you look at injury statistics by age, there's an interesting pattern. Older workers have fewer accidents overall, but when they do get injured, those injuries tend to be more severe. Younger workers have more frequent injuries, but many are minor. This reflects the different risk profiles. Younger workers are more likely to take risks that cause minor injuries, while older workers avoid those risks, but when something goes wrong, their bodies are more fragile and injuries are worse. This creates policy questions. Should overtime limits vary by age? Some argue yes, physiological differences are real and regulations should account for them. Others argue that age-based policies are discriminatory, potentially forcing older workers out of opportunities or marking them as less capable. There's tension between acknowledging real physiological limitations and avoiding age discrimination. For older workers individually, the strategy should probably involve leveraging experience rather than competing on physical capacity. You have knowledge that younger workers lack. You can focus on roles that utilize that experience. You might need to negotiate for different work arrangements, perhaps more flexibility in hours rather than raw overtime quantity. But here's a cruel economic irony. Older workers often need overtime income most. They're caring for grandchildren or elderly parents. They have medical expenses. They're looking at inadequate retirement savings and trying to catch up. The life circumstances that create financial pressure often peak later in careers. But the physiological capacity to handle overtime safely decreases with age. So the workers who most need the income are least able to safely work the hours. Age discrimination in overtime assignment happens in both directions. Some employers favor younger workers, assuming they can handle more hours or are more resilient. Other employers exploit older workers' financial vulnerability, knowing they're desperate for income and will accept hours that are physiologically damaging. There's no simple answer here. Older workers need income. They also need health. Finding the balance requires honest self-assessment about your physical capacity, advocacy for working conditions that accommodate age-related changes, and ideally, economic security that doesn't require dangerous overtime to achieve.